Well, here's an example problem in practice. A consumer has $10 to spend on tacos and pizza. Tacos cost $2 and pizza costs $3. We also have this consumer's total utility from consuming tacos or pizza listed. All right, so the first thing that we need to ask ourselves is right now the consumer is consuming 0 tacos and 0 pizza. What is the first item that this consumer should purchase? Right, so we're comparing the first taco versus the first pizza. Well, we know that a first taco would give a total utility of 10, or rather we would go from 0 total utility from consuming 0 to 10 total utility, so a marginal utility of 10, and it would cost $2 to get that. So the marginal utility per dollar of the first taco would be 5. Meanwhile, if we're consuming 0 pizza, we get 0 total utility. When we go to consuming the first pizza, we get 18 utility, so an increase of 18. Our marginal utility is 18 from 0 to 18, costs $3. So the marginal utility of pizza per dollar for the first slice would be 18 divided by 3, or 6. All right, so what's the first item that this consumer should purchase? Well, the marginal utility per dollar of the first pizza slice is higher than the marginal utility per dollar of the first taco. And again, we have assumed that if the consumer is consuming nothing, they have 0 total utility. Right, so far they have consumed 1 pizza, 0 tacos, and spent $3 total. Now we can figure out what should this consumer buy next. All right, the consumer can buy a first taco, which would give a marginal utility per dollar of 5, which we just calculated before, or they can buy a second slice of pizza. If they buy a second slice of pizza, they'll go from 18 utility to 27, meaning they'll gain 7 additional or marginal utility, or sorry, 9 additional marginal utility, right? So 18 to 27 is a gain of 9 marginal utility. Costs $3. So the marginal utility per dollar of the second pizza is going to be 3. All right, so we now compare buying the first taco, which gives a marginal utility per dollar of 5, versus the second slice of pizza. We've already bought 1 slice of pizza, giving a marginal utility per dollar of 3. And we can see that we want to purchase the taco. So now we've purchased 1 pizza, 1 taco, spent 5 of the $10. So then we would go piece by piece. Now, the next question is, what's the optimal bundle for the consumer? Well, so far we've consumed 1 taco, 1 pizza. We need to compare a second taco versus a second pizza, right? So a second taco would give us 8 additional utility from 10 to 18. It would cost us $2. So the marginal utility per dollar would be 4, which is higher than a second pizza. So the next item we would purchase is a second taco, right? We've already purchased 1 of each. We want to know whether we want a second taco or a second pizza. The second taco has a higher marginal utility per dollar. So now we need to know, we still have $3 left. We spent $3 on pizza, then $2 on taco, then $2 on taco. Do we want a third taco, or do we want a second slice of pizza? The second slice of pizza has a higher marginal utility per dollar than the third taco does. So we would choose second pizza. Now we've spent all 10 of our dollars, so that's as much as the consumer can buy. All right, we can add up our total utility. The first pizza gives us 18. The first taco gives us 10. The second taco gives us an additional 8. And then the second pizza gives us an additional 9. So our total utility from 2 pizza and 2 tacos is 45. And if you want, you can check to see that any other possible combination that this consumer could buy on this table with a $10 income gives less total utility than 45, meaning this is the optimal basket of goods for the consumer to purchase. And again, how did we find it? At every step of the decision, starting with consumption of 0, we ask what is the marginal utility per dollar of each good and assume that the consumer will choose whichever good has the higher marginal utility per dollar. All right, so here's another example problem. Now we've changed the pizza price to $6. What would be the optimizing combination? The consumer still has $10 to spend. So just very quickly, we can go through it. The first taco still costs $2. All of our marginal utilities per dollar have not changed because our utility hasn't changed, our price hasn't changed. But now we need to compare it to pizza. So the marginal utility per dollar of the first slice would be going from 0 to 18 divided by $6. That would give us a marginal utility per dollar of 3. All right, so what are we going to do? We're going to first buy a first taco because the marginal utility of the first taco is higher than 3. The marginal utility of the second taco is also higher than 3. So we know that before we buy any pizza at all, we're going to buy the first taco, maybe it'll help here, and the second taco, right? Because both tacos 1 and 2 have a higher marginal utility per dollar than the first slice of pizza. All right, so now we've purchased 2 tacos. We want to know, do I buy a third taco or a first slice of pizza? The pizza has the higher marginal utility per dollar, so the next item this consumer will purchase is 1 slice of pizza. Now, since tacos cost $2 each, we spent 2, 4, and then 6 more. We've spent all 10 of our dollars. So the optimizing basket here is 2 tacos, 1 pizza. That would give us 18 plus 18 or 36 total utility. And once again, you can see that no matter what the consumer purchases, it will have lower total utility than 2 tacos and 1 pizza in this example. All right, so I hope those examples are helpful. In general, my exam problems don't ask you to do the entire thing from a blank table. They ask you to do one step at a time and compare, basically. All right, I also want to talk very briefly about limitations of marginal utility analysis. So it works great on paper. What are some problems in the real world? Well, first of all, we might not know exactly what our happiness is. This all relied on the fact that we know exactly how much happier we'll get if we consume stuff. Sometimes it's not the case, especially if we haven't consumed it before, right? We don't know exactly how happy it'll make us before we've already consumed it. There's also some issues that we might make with our perceptions or our valuations. You know, how much do we enjoy stuff? We think we know that, but are we exactly accurate? So behavioral economics describes errors that people can possibly make in their valuation or their decision making. Again, I'm not going to do more in this class. We could do an entire class on behavioral economics, but in this class, I just kind of want to introduce some of these errors that people make in terms of a quiz and exam. Oftentimes, you'll see a question, something along the lines of, you know, which of the following is an error that or people make in their decision making, or which of the following describes an error that people might make in rational decision. So there's 5 psychological factors which might cause us to make errors in our judgment of valuing how much we like stuff. We can have sunk cost fallacies when we are too heavily considering the past and what we've spent before. You can have a framing bias where certain information causes us to think in a certain way about something. Overconfidence, maybe we think we know what we like, but we don't actually. Overvaluing the present relative to the future. Some people just are impatient and can't wait very much. And finally, altruism. Sometimes we don't only think about ourselves, we think about others as well. All right, so I will let you go ahead and just kind of read through these slides on your own. As I said, I don't tend to get into too much detail in terms of my exam questions. Simply being able to pop back open like this slide and answer a question like, which of the following is a failure of humans to accurately judge their utility, or a similar question. Let's see if I've got, yeah. So something like this, which of the following is a major critique of marginal utility theory, cannot explain how consumers make choices, has been proven to be completely false, necessarily cannot be used to derive consumer demand curves. We showed that it is. Applies to only goods and not services, or difficult to measure the utility of goods consumed. So it is difficult sometimes to measure the utility of our goods consumed. Sometimes we don't know exactly how much happier consuming something can make us. And then we have this list of cognitive biases that result in individuals making decisions which differ from the theoretical optimum. Right, so those are the main takeaways. Again, you won't have to do too much memorization, I don't think, of these factors. You might need to be able to pop open the slide and see like which one is not on the list or something like that.